This is woke media's rallying cry, a cry for freedom and justice. You're watching woke media, the call of the world. All woke media, come to the free land.
Good afternoon. I am Sergei Kuzmin, and I would like to say a couple of words about this book, Hidden Tibet, kindly printed in Taiwan this year. First of all, I like to thank all people who participated in this preparation, who prepared this, who checked this, of course, who translated this, of course, also the Sekyong of Central Tibetan administration for his foreword, for very good printing, very high quality printing of this book. Thank you very much. What is this book? This is also the same design as in the book, which was printed in several editions, several times. This is Chinese translation of the book, first printed in Russian. It was printed in of about 10 years ago in Russia, and then it was translated into English. The English edition was printed a year later, so 9 years ago, and also the Mongolian edition, which was translated into Mongolian and published in Mongolia. All these versions are available in electronic files, and everybody can freely download them and read them. Thank you very much. So what is this book? The Tibetan question is a disputable question. What is Tibet? And is it a part of China, or it is an independent state, or what is it? There are a lot of ideological issues over the Tibet, from one hand and from another hand, and my task was to clarify this issue based on purely scientific approach, only from the point of view of facts and from scientific truth. And this was approach which I tried to make unbiased, and I tried to clarify what is Tibet based on this approach. This book is not only description of Tibetan history, but of course it is made in chronological order to see what was Tibet in different times of its long history. Usually the statements that Tibet is a part of China have started from the medieval times, usually from the time of Yuan. What is Yuan? It is stated that Tibet was a part of Yuan dynasty of China. I have shown in this book that there was not Yuan dynasty of China. It was also Yuan dynasty of many other states. For example, Yuan dynasty of Afghanistan, because the Yuan was proclaimed not only for China, but for different states, for whole the great state of Genghis Khan, for the great state of the Mongol Empire. And just Mongols who ruled different lands of this empire also interpreted this as the Great Mongol Empire, as a synonym for Yuan. There is a special study in this issue. Therefore, China has lost its statehood at that time. It was not an independent state, and it was a part of Mongolian Empire. But Tibet was not a part of this empire, because Kublai Khan, who proclaimed Yuan, he has given whole power over Tibet to the leaders of the Sakya sect of the Tibetan Buddhism. And also Tibet was not listed in the lands ruled by the Yuan. From the other hand, there was no vassal suzerain relationships between Sakya Lamas and the Yuan dynasty. From the other hand, different rulers of the Great Mongolian Empire, for example, Ilkhans of Iran, they sent the vassal oath to the Yuan emperors. Therefore, in this way, for example, Afghanistan, Iran, and other lands, also Russia, were formally parts of the Yuan Empire, but they were not parts of China, of course. Well, afterwards, it was after the collapse of the Yuan Empire, it was the Ming Empire. Yes, Chinese Empire. China recovered its independence. He again became an independent state. Yes, of course, many Tibetan chieftains, because Tibet, as it was well known, was split into different principalities of that time. Many chieftains wanted to have their own prophets for the contacts from Ming, and they received seals and diploma from the Ming emperors and so on, but they interpreted them in different ways. Emperors of the Ming interpreted this as the subjugation of them for the Ming, vassals of the Ming. But these Tibetan chieftains themselves did not think so. They used this only for trade and something like that, for the inner political reasons and so on. The next empire was the Manchu Qing Empire. It was originated not in China, but beyond China. And during a certain time, the Qing Empire existed simultaneously with the Ming Empire. Two empires existed in one time, side by side. So, Manchu Qing Empire and Chinese Ming Empire. Afterwards, the Qing Empire has conquered Ming Empire. Therefore, Ming Empire, as everywhere in the world, became the part of its conqueror. Who conquered is the ruler. Who was conquered became a part of the country who conquered it. Therefore, China again lost its independence, statehood. It lost its statehood. China has become not independent state, but only a part of foreign Manchu Qing Empire. Tibet had very close relations with the Qing Empire, and I analyze this in my book in details. I will not describe here, but I discuss this from the point of view of Golden Urn, diploma from Li Fan Yuan, the Li, yes, and other issues which are usually using to show that Tibet was a part of the Qing Empire. But detailed analysis has shown that it was not a part of Qing Empire. It was a dependency. It was separate state but dependent on the Qing. By the way, it is not only my view. More and more people think so. Also, there are excellent works by Professor Lau from China, who has clearly shown that Tibet was not a part of Qing, based on the study of the Qing charts and other documents. Details, again, you can see in this book. Therefore, it was not a part of Qing. Then, of course, Xinhai Revolution has led to the collapse of the Qing Empire. It was not an exclusion in the world. Austro-Hungarian Empire, Russian Empire, many empires has collapsed in that time. Ottoman Empire, and they has collapsed into nation state. Xinhai Revolution was led by Han nationalists, therefore Chinese nationalists, who wanted to recover independent China, who lost independence earlier by Manchu conquest, yes? And at that time they have succeeded in this and they proclaimed the Republic of China. It was clearly nation state of the Chinese Han people. But Tibet, Mongolia also proclaimed their independence. They had the same right to this because they have become nation states of the Mongols and Tibetans respectively, yes? But some people in China wanted to have the same borders as in the Qing Empire. It was a curious approach. We have republic, we are nation state, but we have borders of the empire, and also all people from the empire are now part of the republic. And they invented the concept of 5 races of China, yes, including Mongols and the Tibetans. It is important to emphasize that just Mongols and Tibetans did not participate in the elaboration of the concept of 5 races of China. So it was imposed to Mongols and Tibetans to crush their independence. Foreign relations of the Chinese of the Republic of China was profitable for this because great powers of that time preferred to have contacts with consolidate China and not with different states. It was more profitable for them geopolitically and economically. And just Mongols and Tibetans were not so strong as to resist successfully to this approach. As a result, Inner Mongolia was conquered by China, Outer Mongolia succeeded in having autonomy with the assistance of Russia, of the Russian Empire, and Tibet successfully fought for some time, but some lands of Tibet were conquered by China. Nevertheless, Tibet has kept its independence during a very long time, in fact, during the whole time of the Republic of China. And of course, it corresponds to all criteria of independent state. And it is important to say that the only issue which is often shown that Tibet was not independent because no country, no independent state has recognized it. It is not such, because in 1913 Mongolia, which already proclaimed independence and already recognized by Russia as independent state, it was special studies with this regard, yes. In that time, Mongolia and Tibet mutually recognized each other as independent state. And it was internationally legal treaty between Mongolia and Tibet of mutual independence recognition, yes. Later, Mongolia was downgraded to autonomy by three-party treaty in Kyakhta in 1915. But that treaty with Tibet was signed before this, and it was not disproved afterwards. So it remained to be legal document later. So Tibet was also recognized internationally as independent state. When People's Republic of China was created, and it is necessary to emphasize that without the assistance of Stalin, it would never been created. Only with the assistance of Stalin they succeed to win Kuomintang. Without Stalin, Kuomintang would win Mao Zedong. After it was created, Mao Zedong had a task of conquering Taiwan and Tibet. He failed with Taiwan, so with the Republic of China. But he succeeded with Tibet, and he conquered it. Systems of Tibet and People's Republic of China was opposite to each other, and the only way was crash, earlier or later, and it had place in 1560s and later. Of course, mainly during the Cultural Revolution in People's Republic of China. But it was started before. And before Cultural Revolution, People's Rebellion of Tibetan nation against Chinese communist invasion had place. But of course, without any external assistance, they could not be successful in fight for their independence. So you know very well that most of monasteries, most of clergy were crushed, and there was a genocide of Tibetans by the Communist Party of China. All this is described in detail, also with discussion of different values of Tibetan losses provided by different authors. What else? After the death of Mao, some improvement in Tibet occurs, but all the policy till now continues to be policy of Tibet assimilation and Tibet artificial incorporation into China. Finally, I can return to the question from which I started my speech. What is Tibet now? Of course, many people will say that it is a part of China. But this analysis led to conclusion that now Tibet is occupied state. It is not a part of China, but occupied state. Thank you.